Greetings. This is Doc Ock coming at you live and direct tonight from Black Facts Headquarters Central with another installment of Doc Ock at noon and 9. Tonight, I've got a special story for you today for all you bibliophiles all out there, all you lovers of books, all you bookies, all people who just can't get your heads out of a book and hate to have to use something they call a nook because it makes you feel like a crook. Now, proverb for tonight is, quarrels end, but words once spoken never die. Quarrels end, but words once spoken never die. And that is a proverb from Sierra Leone. The poem for tonight is, We've Got You. From the book, We Rise, We Resist, We Raise Our Voices. We rise, we resist, we raise our voices. And the poem for today is, We've Got You. The storm is coming. There's always a storm, but we've got you. We've weathered the fury you're heading into, and we know how to shelter, how to gather force. We've seen where the storm is weak. We've got you. So tuck in, stay close, grow strong. We're here, your wind, and you're our coming storm. Okay. And there you have it. In a nutshell. The story for tonight is called The Man Who Built a Library. Arturo Schomburg. The Man Who Built a Library. Arturo Schomburg. And we're using the name the way his mama would say his name, because he is from the island of Puerto Rico, which would make him a Puerto Riqueño. Yes, as they say down south, a Puerto Riqueño. So let's see. Now, when you look at Arturo Schomburg, can you tell he's Puerto Riqueño? What does a Puerto Riqueño look like? And there's the real question. Because he looks a lot like you, and he looks a lot like me, because in fact, the Puerto Riqueños, or Puerto Ricans as we call them, in fact, have a lot of African blood running through their veins, just like us, and a lot of kinky hair coming out of their heads, just like us. Not all of them, but it's an important part of their background and the history of Puerto Rico. So let's see what we can see. And here's another beautiful illustrations in the book here. Okay, another one of these beautiful illustrations in the book. Some of these books have really, really nice illustrations. And I'm going to wear my glasses as well so I can read easily. I can read without them, but it becomes just a slight bit easier. Some of the letters don't blur together so much when I use my glasses. Prologue, the bibliophile. What exactly is a bibliophile? Well, a bibliophile is a lover of a book. Arturo Schomburg was more than a book lover, however, more than a mailroom clerk at Banker's Trust, where he supervised 11 white men. Unheard of authority for a black man at the time, he recognized early on that history was not history unless it was complete from all angles. Like a detective, he hunted for clues and found facts affirming the role of African descendants in building nations and shaping cultures. Fellow book collector Arthur Spingarm noted that Arturo would approach an immense pile of apparently worthless material and unerringly find one or two treasures which would have been lost to a less inspired collector. Arturo believed that those facts once unearthed would speak loud and clear in halls of knowledge, daring another teacher to tell a black child that the Negro has no history. Time and again through print, music, and art, Schomburg proved otherwise on his lifelong quest. He was not just collecting rarities, he was correcting history. For generations to come, he wanted the facts to reach the community and boys and girls in classrooms to teach them that Black heritage knows no national boundaries. And today, the Harlem Library, bearing Schomburg's name, boasts more than 10 million items, a beacon for scholars all over the world, bringing to light past glories that Arturo always knew existed. So where did Arturo come from? How did he go from just a Puerto Rican child to someone who has created an entire library? Something most of us have a hard time even imagining. Well, in the 5th grade, Arturo Schomburg, who was born with a sense of wonder as a boy in Puerto Rico, shadowed the tabaqueros, the cigar workers. These men pooled money to pay el lector to read aloud in the factory. Newspapers, novels, speeches, and politics, much like I'm doing right here with you right now. But you're getting it for free. And the sound of the readers, Arturo took in the scent of cured tobacco and the sound of the reader's voice. Thus, Arturo not only learned his ABCs, but also to love the written word. So when his 5th grade teacher told him that Africa's sons and daughters had no history, no heroes worth noting, did the twinkle leave Arturo's eyes? Did he slouch his shoulders, hang his head low, and look to the ground rather than to the horizon? No, he did not do that. His people must have contributed something over the centuries, history that teachers did not teach. Until they did, school children like Arturo would not learn of their own heritage, ignorance shackling them like chains. After that teacher dismissed his people's past, did the twinkle leave Arturo's eyes like a candle blown out in the dark? No, the twinkle never left. It grew into a spark, and then into a flame, and then into a raging inferno that continues to burn until this very day. Genius. Genius. What exactly is a genius? Where is our historian to give us our side, Arturo asked, to teach our people our own history? Afro-Puerto Rican, Afro-Borinqueño, born in 1874, young Arturo Schomburg began a lifelong quest. Still a boy, he took on the mantle of historian because he had to know the truth. In a history club, he noticed that the white youth seemed prouder of their heritage than the Black members of the history club. Arturo read everything he could about his people, but he did not hurry. He let facts simmer. True scholarship requires time and calm effort, he figured. Nothing worthwhile is done in haste. After all, there were ages to traverse. Lost for hours in books, Arturo was transported by Benjamin Banneker's almanac to early America. Arturo studied all he could about this self-taught inventor, astronomer, and draftsman. He beamed as he read that Banneker accurately plotted a solar eclipse. Arturo could almost hear the tick-tock, tick-tock of Banneker's handcrafted wooden clock. Tick-tock, tick-tock. The first built in the new world. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Arturo imagined Banneker counting off minutes. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Racing time to redraft plans from memory for the streets of Washington, D.C. Tick-tock, tick-tock. After French architect Pierre L'Enfant walked off and carted his papers with him back to Europe. Tick-tock, tick-tock. tock. Banneker reproduced them in only 2 days. The nation's capital in 2 days by heart. Tick, tock, tick, tock, all around the clock. It's time for us to start to rock. Tick, tock, tick, tock. Where were the monuments to this genius? Where were the monuments? Where are the monuments to this genius? Have you seen one to this genius yet? Benjamin Banneker, have you seen his statue yet? Have you seen his monument yet? Have you been to his park and seen the fountain with no water? Have you seen the park with no grass? Have you seen the park with benches with homeless people laying on them? Have you been to Benjamin Banneker's park? Because it's right there off the National Mall in Washington, D.C. But have you seen it? Have you been there? Have you visited it? Have you wondered why there is no statue of Benjamin Banneker there? Why is there no statue to the genius who designed Washington, D.C.? Have you been there? El Immigrante, the immigrant. When 17-year-old Arturo Schomburg immigrated to New York from Puerto Rico in 1891, he carried with him letters of introduction from cigar makers and from Jose Gonzalez Font, who owned a printing press in San Juan, Puerto Rico, where Arturo had worked as a typographer. Arturo presented the letters to Flor Baerga, an amateur book collector and staunch opponent of Spanish colonial rule. Arturo perused Baerga's photos and clippings about New York's Puerto Ricano community and soon found the local tabaqueros. This time he lived among them, sharing their activism and their allegiance to Cuban and Puerto Rican independence from Spain in support of La Causa, the cause. Arturo joined political groups such as Las Dos Antillas, the Two Antilles, and wrote letters to the editor of the newspaper Patria under the pen name Guarionex. Newly arrived, Arturo sought to better himself, giving Spanish lessons while learning English in night school. Drawn to medicine and law, he pursued neither because, as the story goes, his official school records were lost in a fire. Not even a letter from a former teacher was sufficient proof of his formal education. Kindergarten was all that could be documented. So Arturo set aside dreams of a profession and toiled as a messenger and clerk at the law firm that was seeking to protect Johnson & Johnson's use of the Red Cross logo on its products. For that case, Arturo indexed and memorized thousands of pages of testimony, his recall of detail extraordinary. The book hunting bug. I wanted to find out, said Arturo Schomburg, what my own racial group had contributed, if anything at all, to the history of mankind. He could not get his hands on enough books. His curiosity about Africana, insatiable. Arturo had what he called the book hunting disease. No one volume told the whole story and no library specialized in the subject. So he haunted rare bookstores, poring over fragile pamphlets with torn covers and leather books with paper mites between pages. Most of what he bought early on came cheap because white collectors considered it junk. Still, what he hunted was not easy to find. But Arturo knew what clues and markers to look for. Now and then he happened upon a prize in Phyllis Wheatley, the first African-American and third American woman to have a book of poems published. Arturo found not only a devotion to God and country, but also a biography as remarkable as her verse. Captured at age 7 in West Africa and named Phyllis after the slave on which she was the cargo. She was sold to John Wheatley, but was sickly and thus never trained as his wife's servant. Poor in health but rich in a rare brilliance, Phyllis quickly mastered English and read the Bible. She studied religion and the classics and spoke several languages fluently, but Phyllis was most phenomenal as a poet. If only Arturo could have been a gull swooping and crooning above the waves as Phyllis crossed the Atlantic a second time, bound for London to promote her book, Poems on Various Subjects, Religious and Moral, in 1773. If only that same year Arturo could have witnessed that stroke of the pen granting Phyllis her freedom. If only Arturo could have looked over her shoulder, seen her penning that praise poem to George Washington during the Revolution. Although she offered subscriptions for a second book, her final manuscript was never published nor found. If only, thought Arturo, I could find that. Frederick Douglass. As Arturo fanned the pages of Frederick Douglass's narrative, it was as if a breeze carried him to the riverfront plantation where sailboats first defined freedom for young Frederick. Like Arturo, Frederick loved the written word. He even broke the law against slaves, learning to read. As Frederick escaped bondage, Arturo followed his trail from Maryland all the way to Massachusetts. And when Douglass roared against slavery, his speeches, agitate, 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 awoke Arturo to the power of the pen. With that aim, Douglass had rallied the abolitionist cause, winning pledges of support and thunderous applause. Arturo scanned Douglass's anti-slavery newspaper, the North Star. The publication's motto rang true. Right is of no sex, truth is of no color. God is the father of us all, and all men are brethren. 10,000 volumes could not better define democracy. A printer's helper. As a teen, Arturo imagined Douglass setting metal type and cranking the letter press. A tall man with deep-set eyes and a long, woolly mane, Douglass went on to become the U.S. minister to Haiti. In his later years, he bought Cedar Hill, an estate in Washington's Anacostia section, where he was deemed a sage. Frederick's name, thought Arturo, in every archive should reside. The words that Douglass wrote would keep his memory alive. Revolutionaries, 1804. As Schomburg's search went on, he bought not only books but also letters, prints, and rare African cameos. His was a war to combat ignorance and shattered lies. He needed an arsenal for that. From the past, Arturo enlisted an army of exemplars. His boyhood hero was Toussaint Louverture, leader of the revolt that liberated slaves in Haiti. Later, Arturo purchased military orders signed by Louverture himself. A freed slave with property and money, he risked all to join the slave revolt. Just a generation after American independence, Louverture had led a revolution that lasted 12 years and cost thousands of lives. His troops fought off first the French, then the British, and finally the Spanish before victory was won and a black republic born, the first in the Americas, Haiti. For colonies and countries founded on slavery, the Haitian Revolution was a hurricane. Whispers of Louverture's name made slaveholders shudder. Just shudder. Quake right in their boots. And we are going to leave off there, and we'll pick that up again on the morrow, and tomorrow, and tomorrow, and tomorrow. Now, we're celebrating the life of Dr. Edward W. Crosby this entire month of November 2020. And one of his favorite things was to read. He loved to read. He loves to read. Well, he loved to read. Now, not so much. But in the past, he definitely loved reading. And he would sit for hours. I would watch him sit for hours reading a book. And if you asked him a question, he would be so deep into the book that he wouldn't even respond for 4 or 5 minutes. So much later on, he would turn to you and ask, did you say something? All the time. This is what he would do. So a great lover of books. And so I thought this would be an excellent volume. Yesterday we read about Malcolm X, which was definitely one of his heroes. He has the poster still here on the walls of our studio. And so I figured this would be a good book as well, because there has not been a children's book written on Dr. Edward W. Crosby, the founder of Black History Month. But his story will be written. We're working on that right now. I'm looking to see exactly how I want to tell it. And maybe that'll be it. I'll just pick that particular part of his history, the founding of Black History Month. Pure and very simple. How did it come to be? And is it just an evolutionary stage from Negro History Week? Or is it its own entity? Like the difference between a Cadillac and a Ford. Both of them have 4 wheels. They both go forwards and backwards. They're both cars or automobiles. But do they have the same history? I don't think so. Not if you ask Ford and Cadillac, they don't. Guaranteed. They've got different histories. So before it's over, you'll know all about the mystery and you won't have to worry about the history. But right now, all you need to worry about is laying that little head on your little pillow, on your little bed, and closing those your eyes, waiting for that sun to rise, waiting for a new dawn to come above the horizon, and those sunbeams to beam down on your eyes and warm them up and turn them all red inside and wake you up so you can greet the new day and go about your business in a brand new way. That's what we need you to do tonight as well as tomorrow, so there won't be any sorrow in your life, because every minute you live, you should be making some kind of progress. Don't just sit around becoming a couch potato or a vegetable in front of your what do you call those things? Your Sony PlayStation. There's more to life than PlayStation. So get out in the mix, do your thing, read, learn, study, and then apply what you've learned. Don't just learn just for learning's sake, because there's no sense in that. Meanwhile, for you adults, you know we could use a few cents being donated over to us over here. Small donations are welcome. You can donate right below if you're looking at us on Facebook. If you're on YouTube, go ahead to the website. There's a donation page there. If you don't want to donate at either of those 2 locations, go ahead to Amazon, where you're ordering your Christmas presents, your food, and whatever else it is, all your goods that you're ordering, and sign up for Amazon Smile. Just list us as the beneficiary, and we will get 1/2 of 1% of certain items that you purchase. So if you could do one of those 3 things for us, it would help us out immensely. And one of those things, the third one I just mentioned, doesn't even cost you a dime. So do it right now. Do it anyhow. You might as well, because when you do, it'll keep all of us from going to a place that starts with an H and ends with a double L. Absolutely. Have a good night. This is Doc Ock signing out. Peace out, y'all.